Hey there, welcome to the Joyful Rebels podcast. We've got Claire and Donna here, and this week our episode is titled Joyful Reflections on Active Listening. So, if you remember, we have decided to move forward with a new format where one week we present a topic, a wellness related topic that's either something that we've worked on and feel really good about and want to share, or something we're currently working on, which is me most of the time. Uh, but then the next week, we're going to open it up to allow a full episode just to reflect on how that showed up in our lives that week, how that topic showed up. And if you're listening, this is your chance too. So if you got a chance to listen to the active listening podcast, take a moment. Like, how has that shown up in your life the past week? Have you tried any of the tips that we talked about? You know, have you had any aha moments? And just to recap, active listening, right? What is it? It's different than that critical listening when we're listening specifically to give an answer. Active listening, we are listening to understand. Why do we do it? We're letting the other person, we're making them feel seen and heard. And that really can't be overstated how important that is to give that to someone else. They're seen and heard. We're increasing our understanding of what they're saying. That can help you in social situations, in work situations, in your relationships,
Mhm.
right? To be able to really hear what the other person is saying. And then we talked about 4 tips on how you can do that, right? You can work on being present, and that's your nonverbal cues. We talked about that 50 to 70% of the time, making eye contact. You can ask open ended questions, right? You're avoiding those yes nos. You can reflect and actually repeat what you heard the person say, right? Avoid paraphrasing and putting it in your own words. Just repeat, like you're showing them, hey, I'm listening to you. And finally, you can hold space. We talked about that pregnant pause, like pausing, that silence, that's okay. And holding space for someone, that's really sacred. So, those are some tips and how it can show up in active listening. And then we teased a little bit about going over a script or a conversation that you might hear or be a part of. So, Mom, what's that going to look like?
Well, we've got our actress hats on right now. Not really, but even looking at this, sometimes uh, having a concept and being able to identify how it shows up in our lives, oftentimes I'll need an example. And I don't know if we're anything alike, where sometimes I will have had opportunities where I've been in that situation. I didn't put that language around it, like, oh, that's what that was. So when we saw this script, we thought, okay, this will be kind of fun. So this is what we'll do. This is a short conversation between two women, Lisa and Jody. And the first time we'll run through it where we're just going to say how one person said something, the other person responded. And I want you to look for some of the things that Claire just mentioned, like either a pause or an open-ended question. You won't be able to see eye contact, but we're going to guess you're going to use your imagination. And then we'll run through it a second time and we'll reveal some of the tips and tricks that are identify exactly what was happening there in case there was any question. So if that sounds kind of fun, I'll try not to get too nervous. But again, we're putting it into play to see, like, how does active listening look in a situation? Again, because sometimes when it's personal, it's too close. So let's just, pull the lens back a little bit, have a conversation, put your thinking cap on for a minute and see if you can hear some of the different ways to have some active listening and see if you can put language around it and notice it when it's happening. And if not, we'll put a name to it at the end. All right, that was a long way to say that. Are you ready, Claire?
Whew, okay.
Yeah, right. That was a long way to go around is be like,
Ah,
let's just have some fun. Let's do it.
okay, here we go. Sorry to dump this on you, but I had a fight with my sister and we haven't spoken since. I'm upset.
Tell me more about what happened.
Well, we were arguing about what to do for our parents' anniversary. I'm still so angry.
Uh, that's tough. You sound upset that you're not speaking because you're not speaking of it.
Yeah, she just makes me so angry. She assumed I would help her plan this elaborate party. I don't have time. It's like she couldn't see things from my perspective at all.
Wow, that's too bad. How did that make you feel?
Frustrated, angry, maybe a bit guilty that she had all these plans and I was the one holding them back. Finally, I told her to do it without me, but that's not right either.
Mm, sounds complicated. I bet you need some time to sort out how you feel about it.
Yeah, I guess I do. Thanks for listening. I just needed to vent.
Grammys
Woo! Yay, round of applause from everyone listening. I know. Oh,
for everybody.
grade A acting right there. Okay. Okay, so question then. If you're listening, did you pick up on any of the techniques that Jody was using in the conversation with Lisa, right? Any of those things that we talked about in terms of active listening? And now we can go through it a second time and actually point out, hey, this is what's going on here.
Okay, let's do it. Peek
So
behind
if
the
you're
curtain.
ready for the encore presentation, I'm sorry to dump this on you, but I had a fight with my sister and we haven't spoken since. I'm upset and don't know who to talk to.
No problem. Tell me more about it. Open-ended question.
Mm. Well, we were arguing about what to do for our parents' anniversary. I'm still so angry.
That's tough. You sound upset that you're not speaking because of it. And that's reflecting on what I just heard.
Yeah, she just makes me so angry. She assumed I would help her plan this elaborate party. I don't have time. It's like she couldn't see things from my perspective at all.
Wow, that's too bad. How did that make you feel? That's another open-ended question.
Frustrated, angry, maybe a bit guilty that she had all these plans and I was the one holding them back. Finally, I told her to do it without me, but that's not right either.
Sounds complicated. I bet you need some time to sort out how you feel about it. I'm withholding judgment there.
Yeah, I guess I do. Thanks for listening. I just needed to vent.
Mm.
Woo.
And scene. Okay, so I really, as goofy as that was kind of nerve-wracking. It's easier to just speak from the heart as opposed to reading lines. But the interesting thing that my takeaway, and I have it all in front of me, the more I can ask questions, the less I feel like I'm putting my fingerprints on the conversation. Like I really feel the language that sits with me is it just gives it some oxygen. I'm just asking questions. And then I could see it. Could you guys feel it? It's like you ask the question and then Claire could elaborate on it. It provides more texture. She gets a chance to talk about it a little bit more, but I'm not going, yeah, you're right. That's how I would feel. It's like without judgment. And sometimes that's the checkpoint, the mental and emotional checkpoint I make to just let the other person go without fueling and without dampening. It's just let them say how it is, and then more details are revealed.
Yeah, and I think if you've heard it before, that phrase of even when a conversation is going to be started and you can tell there's some emotion there, you might even ask, like, do you want to vent or do you want some advice? Because
Mm,
I know when I'm listening to that conversation or reading through it, I'm already thinking of, oh, how can I help them? What advice would I give them? But we can see in this conversation that it was the most helpful to just sit there and let Lisa vent a little bit. And
yeah.
so I know for me that active listening can be the tips and tricks can be helpful, as in the open-ended questions and allowing just that space for someone to talk and not having to fill it with my own advice or opinions. And there is the time and space for that, but I know for me, I need to
Oh,
focus more on the other way.
so if you're listening right now, take a moment. How often when you hear somebody struggling in general, or just something that's a topic that's emotion laden for them, that the urge or the desire is to go in and try and fix it, or to provide some alternative way of handling it, like immediately. And I'll say it like that, like the urge, the place that it comes from is a good place. We want people to feel better for sure. However, in the long term of things, maybe that's not the best option. Maybe it's really just like letting people talk it through. If we go back to one of our core values, is like there's huge wisdom inside of us. Like we need to find that. Like there is this place where maybe if we just excavate a little bit more and talk about it, maybe if it's even in the form of venting, we'll figure out where we're coming to. Like we don't need to do so much heavy lifting for people. We just don't need to. So I appreciate that this felt stilted for my own acting chops for sure, but that it's really like you just ask some questions, non-judgment, holding space with compassion, listening, and letting the other person find some of the nuggets of wisdom that are inside them, even if it's just, I needed to vent. A lot of good things happen in there.
Yeah. And I feel like that showed up in real life for me too in this past week. Um, say I probably had the best conversation I've had with one of my neighbors in the 4+ years that I've lived here. And when we have a topic and then we know we're going to be living this topic kind of under a microscope for the next week, just because, oh, we're reflecting on it, we're thinking about it, right? We shine the light on this topic. So I'm having a conversation with the neighbor, and instead of just real surface level, right? Because there's yes, no questions, and there's also just how are you, like the
Hmm.
conversations that go nowhere. You're polite, whatnot. I was like, you know what? I'm going to work on my open ended questions. This is silly. We talk about gamifying things a little bit, but I mean, honestly, I'm like, I need to practice this. And I started asking just, well, how are you? Okay, how is that feeling? And, I just come to find out there's been some health issues, and, I didn't offer advice. I couldn't. But I think just being there to let them feel seen and heard, like
Hmm.
I could even see it in the facial expression, like, because I don't know how many people this person talks to. I don't know who their circle is, or if they even have had the chance to
Hmm.
be able to vent, let off steam, just talk about how they're doing. So, again, if this interaction from the outside could look so small, it was meaningful for me because I feel like, again, it was the deepest conversation I've had with this person. And it looked, at least from my side, meaningful to them. And
Hmm.
so it's these little things that we can do. And it's like, wow, okay. And I felt like I got some more practice on asking open-ended questions with the hope that it becomes more natural for me,
Mm.
in the long run.
Yeah, I love that it wasn't a huge cost. That's what it sounds like. It wasn't a huge
Mm-hmm.
cost for you to stay open and to hold some space for your neighbor to talk. And I love that thinking and understanding that we don't know what people are going through and what their lives really look like. We're not in their shoes. And to allow that opportunity to be seen and heard is just so huge for everybody. And I feel the same way, Claire. We had some really different, weeks last week. Unfortunately, over here, we had a death in the family, and I lost my father-in-law, so Claire's grandpa, and he would have been 90 in coming in September. So going through the services, not to get super glum, but there's always bright spots in every life event. And I found that this reflective listening, among other things for sure, came up over and over again for the people that were coming to the wake and the funeral services. The people that love dad were coming in wanting to talk about him. And all I had to do was look at him, hold some space and go like, tell me more about that time. And then I got a chance to learn about him. I mean, I've been in this family for, gosh, like 40 years, but he lived a whole life before I ever came in there. And I got to learn some of the background things that if I would have jumped in and tried to console them or make them feel better, I would not have heard that rich history and that tapestry of the different ways that my father-in-law showed up in the world as a child and a young man when I didn't know him. So that was a gift that I am super grateful for. I'm really grateful that it was top of mind to just kind of watch myself and listen. And it became really organic because I just got to do a whole bunch of reps right after another because I was in this situation. Like life will do that to us sometimes. Well, you'll be in a situation where you'll have something, but you get to practice it over and over and over again. And I think that can be one of the really bright spots of having moments of sorrow and of challenge, is that there's going to be good spots in there too. And I found that really to be nourishing for my heart. And I'm really grateful. I'm grateful that we talk about these things, Claire, because we get to use them. And sometimes it feels more impactful than others, but always it feels useful. And this was a big, useful week for me. So yay for pushing some of these conversations forward. I do think it matters, and in ways that I didn't know it would. That's where I keep coming back to.
Mm.
Like, I didn't know I needed to know that. I didn't know I needed to practice that more. And my life is a tiny bit better because I did. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I like how you were talking about there that it was that space that you were providing, because the benefits just seem so many then at that point. Like, you are learning more that's benefiting you. There's that mutual, you're telling good stories, good emotions. Like you said, a bright spot is coming out of something that's otherwise sad. That other person is getting some joy from reliving these good moments. So again, it's just that reminder of sometimes us not talking, like the importance of us listening, but it resonates so much more than just keeping your mouth shut. And I know, yes, like definitely our weeks look different, and that the open-ended questions for me is something that I've been working on. Also, just not that I have this fear when I don't come up with my response. So we talked
Mm,
about being present and not, not planning what you're going to say. And I think I mentioned it during that episode, but that just is something that shows up time and again for me. And I think, Mom, I think you mentioned these words in that episode. For me, it's really coming down to vulnerability
mm,
and confidence. Those two things, which, oh,
mm,
do those go together? I'm going to say, yeah, they definitely do. Because one, vulnerability. I have this thing in my head where I think I need to have this polished response when someone's talking to me. And like we just did in our script, maybe someone wants to vent. I don't need to have this perfect advice just ready to go off the tip of my tongue the second they stop talking. But that's kind of ingrained in me, or at least been my habit. So really unpacking that, no, I can not have a response ready, and that does make me feel vulnerable, because I am like, oh, what if I don't know what to say, or what if I flub what I'm going to say, I'm worried that my no words are going to come out. Side note, even if that did happen, and this is something I've been doing with my daughter, even if it is that worst case scenario, like, so what, right? That's
yeah.
not the end of the world if I flubbed what I had to say or didn't. So I mean, kind of getting away from that perfectionism and needing to
Hmm.
look so sound so clean, but then also the confidence that I need to trust that I know what to say and that the right words will come out. And maybe even the right words and quotes is just silence holding space. So I think being okay with not sounding perfect in conversation and knowing that I'm going to be able to say the right thing, that it's in there. Those are two things that just keep showing up. It still feels a little scary to me to not again have a whole conversation pre-planned in my head of responses. I mean, I'm sorry to anyone who, I've ever listened to before. Like, I'm sitting there like, what am I going to say? Like, it's definitely something I'm working on. But if that's you, like, it is what it is. We're gonna work on it, right? And again, it's
Yeah.
these small things that are going to keep showing up. I'm going to have more opportunities to do it,
Hmm.
and the more I do it, the easier it becomes, and it builds your confidence, right? If you do something that takes confidence, that builds your confidence.
Hmm.
So it's kind of that cycle there. So trusting that process, trusting that I'll find the words. That's
Yeah.
where I'm at.
I appreciate that. I do. And there is something to that, especially if you're in a public speaking role or that's part of maybe a professional identity that's wrapped in there. I've got that too. And one thing that's interesting, and if you guys are listening, I wonder if this will land. I forget that communication is takes a couple different people to make happen. Like, I'm not responsible for all of it. And even if I say the perfect thing, that doesn't mean the other person's hearing it. That doesn't mean it's landing. That doesn't mean they're open to hear it. They could be, critically thinking from their own
Mm.
standpoint. We're listening where they're like, I'm formulating. So there's a lot of ways that things could go south. What I'm trying to do is try to be misinterpreted less of the time and just try to leave some pacing where there's enough time to catch up. And I love so my thing top of mind is just to keep more open space. Open space for me allows me to think a little more or feel what's happening. It gives the other person this sense of keep going. There's so much to learn and so much to practice. Let's keep looking at what's happening in our daily life and look for the opportunities. And my guess is, like, I hope you guys are hearing that we're finding it over and over and over again because we're looking for it.
Yes.
So look for it in your week and see, and then you get all these reps in, and then you start building the things that you're looking for. So look for it and it'll happen. So I think that's pretty cool. That means that we have more, I don't say control, but we have our intention puts in motion what we want to happen. We get this momentum behind us all through little tiny things and being aware. So, and all roads lead back to awareness. So that's cool.
I was just gonna say, you summed that up perfectly. That kind of leads to the point that I want to make now, which is that we, through a lot of our conversations, we've been trying to kind of streamline what our message is at the Joyful Rebels. You know, what's our mission statement? And we had those episodes in season one, Joyful Rebels Explained, where we talked about our four main themes, and those still hold true. And awareness and self care, real actionable small self care and the small steps. Those are still holding true, still what's
Mhm.
driving us. Um, but I feel like it's really been top of mind for me lately, that these small things matter, that consistency matters. So I'm just going to bring up one more time th- this habit tracking that I've been doing, because I feel like it's kind of come full circle. So
Yep.
if y'all remember, almost 3 months ago now, I decided that I'm going to try this new way of habit tracking. I'm going to pick 10 items. I'm going to check them off if I do them. The kicker was 10 minutes a day. I only need to do it for 10 minutes a day. I don't need to complete a task or do an hour, just 10 minutes. The other um, thing about it was I needed to pick things, or I chose to pick things that were either something that lit me up or filled me up. So, what does that mean? Things I'm passionate about, hobbies I wanted to start, self care. So, I wasn't putting in like chores I wanted to do or like things I was kind of resistant towards. These were things I'm like, I want to add into my life. And so, fast forward a month after I started that, I rechecked my list, right? Because once you start something, you need to go and evaluate where you're at
Yes.
again. Go and check, and I'm like, wow, about half of the things I'm doing consistently. There's like 5 things on this list that, yeah, I found it. I'm doing it consistently. So I chose to pare down my list. These other 5 things, for whatever reason, they're not clicking right now. I'll unpack that later, but I'm going to focus on these 5 that are really working for me right now. All right. Fast forward now another month, we're in present day. One of the things that was in my top 5 was this project that we've been working on for the Joyful Rebels now for several months. It's a passion project that we're both really interested in, but what I need is, it felt like a big task. We'll say
Mhm.
that. It felt like a big task. And old Claire, the one who was really into procrastination, would have put everything off until the last second and then just done like a brain dump and put all the content out there and just everything all at once, taking up a whole day. And you know what? The product, the end product of this project, it might have been fine. The quality might have still been good. But the thing is, and let me know if you relate to this if you're listening, when I do something like that, whether I'm writing something, creating, making something, and I do it all at the last second, I then tend to feel resentment towards it. So if I put so much time and energy into something, then when I have to go back and look at it again, edit it, make small changes, I'm like, oh, this thing again? Like, you've caused me so much stress. What's so cool is I didn't do that this time. And that's why I just need to share it. This is so big for me. I worked on it 10 minutes a day. That's it. Now, sometimes I got the ball rolling and I did it more. Cool. Like, you're welcome to do that. But it was a small little step every day. And I was consistent with it. Now, there are things I can't control. We had sickness come through the house, last second schedule changes. That's okay. What matters is the consistency. Oh, I missed a day. Well, I'm just going to go back and pick up the next day. I don't need to make up time or make myself feel
Mhm.
bad. It's to just keep going with it. And I think that's so huge for the joyful rebel way. There's not some magic pill that you can take or some secret sauce or formula to help yourself, to redo yourself, to be a better person, to be happier, to make things easier. It's this boring thing we call consistency, but it's so important. And how it showed up this week in another way, which is just really cute, so I want to share, is so my daughter Violet, she's 7. I moved her up in a soccer league. Okay. So she's 7. She's playing with 9 and 10-year-olds. And she emails you, mom,
Uh-huh.
who she calls Nani. And she was emailing Nani and she was telling her about soccer. And she made some comment that she didn't even say to me out loud, but she was like, oh, my position doesn't really get the ball a lot. I don't get to score goals. And I didn't even know that she felt bad about that, but I started talking to her about it. She's like, I really want to score a goal, but the ball doesn't really come to me. And we're not like a very intense soccer family and we put no pressure on scoring goals. But I said, you know what? Playing a position is new to you. You have to consistently stay in your spot, right? And if the ball comes to you and you're doing what you're doing and the timing is right, then you can score a goal. It's all about staying in your spot. It might be boring or it's the same thing over and over and the
Mhm.
ball's not always coming to you. But if you put in that time, that work to do what you're supposed to do, your job, and the timing is right, then you'll score a goal. Okay, Tuesday comes, they have a game. We chatted a little bit about it before the game. She's going up with the ball. Everyone's bunched on the other side. She kicks it. Someone kicks it across to her. She kicks it in as she's running. The ball goes over the goalie's head. I mean, the crowd is cheering. You would think she scored the winning goal at like the World Cup or like a Grand Slam at the World Series. She is just so excited. I mean, and then she realized the game is still going on. So like, yeah. Um, but she came up afterwards, and the first thing she's talking about, I thought she was going to be talking about the goal itself, but she's like, I just did what I was supposed to do, and it worked out. Like, it worked. I
Mhm.
did what I was supposed to do, and I got it. And okay, why am I talking about this? Because if we work on these small changes, working towards what we want. And again, it might not be glamorous at the time. We get to have these big wins.
Hmm.
And no matter what it looks like to anyone else or in the context of the game, one goal, they're big for us. And that is what matters. And so coming back right now, like I said, full circle to this project, we've created a program called the Knowing Yourself Starter Kit. And it's in alignment with the goals that I just talked about because it's about putting in this work for 5 to 10 minutes a day to get to know yourself. Because if you know yourself better, then you can make better decisions for yourself moving forward. So there are sections on evaluating who you are now, and there are sections on planning out and describing who you want to be and setting goals. And we'll have plenty more information about this to come out, but just know it's 5 to 10 minutes a day, and that's enough. 10 minutes a day of working towards something is enough to have a profound impact on your life. So thejoyfulrebels.com is something you should definitely check out if you get a moment. And we
Hmm.
will be talking about this a lot more because we are so excited about that. I think every single person listening could find benefit from this program. But the fact that it's living proof that you can put in the time and the work, just you have your head up, you got your awareness light turned on,
Hmm.
you can do it. You can do the thing.
Mm. I'm so proud of not only Claire. Claire, I'm so proud of you. I'm telling you directly. But you guys, this is all in alignment because we keep talking about it and everything's moving in the same direction of we've looked to try to provide no and low cost resources for you just to help to get to know yourself so that you get a chance to, in this season of your life, live the life that you want and invest in the future self that you want to be in. And so this is a bigger project that I have to just circle it back and go, this is Claire. Claire's done a great job on this. The scientist mind and the way that she's pulled it together didn't even just have to handle the content and help to formulate and put it in a way that's really easy to digest and yet with huge benefits, but then deal with the digital side of it too. And she's not going to say any of that, but I can. And I can say it as a mom, but I can also say it as a professional partner that these kind of projects that are coming now, that the platform's all revamped and set up to have all these resources for you, use them. Like
Mm.
this is something that it's take what's on here, go kick the tires and look around on this website. There's a bunch of stuff that's up there, anywhere from, free yoga classes and breathing and meditations to one-on-one coaching with me. Like there's a whole gambit of ways to feel better on things. And just thanks for letting us into your life. Thanks for allowing us to come in and share our experiences that are not only multi-generational, but also we're two women who are trying to do the thing along with you. And we're
Mhm.
in the trenches and we're doing it, and it can be kind of messy. And I like it that we are kind of goofy and stumble across our words. I'll just speak for myself. But this is not about being polished. This is all about doing the thing. And I hope that you continue to hear that message from a place of compassion and empathy and love, because we are in this thing all together and we can do it. And we're all moving in the same direction, linking arms, because there's room for all of us, and we can be and feel how we want to if we just spend a tiny little bit of time each day focusing on that, because that's how we get to the bigger picture and the bigger goal. So are you down for that? And if you are, let's do this thing.
Until next time, Rebels. Set. I don't know who to talk to.
Hold on. I don't have the, no problem.